going on, everybody? You're watching the Bulls Report by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. But coming up on today's show, a Bulls insider issue a warning for Bulls fans entering the 2026 NBA Draft. So we'll discuss that. And then the Dallas Mavericks. Could they have some interest in Josh Giddey? We'll talk about that on the back half of today's show. But let's talk about what Joe Cowley had to say. Now, Joe Cowley, I think a lot of people have different opinions on Joe Cowley. I've always been a fan of him because he addresses it right on the head. When the Bulls over the last couple of years, when they were struggling, they were in this purgatory zone and ownership was just not picking a direction. He called him out on it. He was going no BS with what he was reporting on the Bulls. So I've always respected Joe Cowley's honesty because, honestly, with the Bulls over the last couple of years, you kind of have to be negative. And on media, especially being a sports media personality, positivity sells. You get a lot more hate comments when you are negative, so I've respected Joe Cowley of doing that. But he said this, saying, I love Acuff, and if the Bulls are picking 5, I'm in. But this is a big man's league. Steph and Zeke, if you don't know Zeke, Isaiah Thomas, back with the Detroit Pistons in the late 80s, early 90s, saying are the only small guards to win rings. And you have to build an exact team around that. Boozer or Caleb, they're no-brainers. Now, he also said this, saying the problem is there are talking heads in Chicago that don't know ball selling themselves on Acuff at number 4. Ignore them, talking puppets. And I wholeheartedly agree with what Joe Cowley was saying here. And it almost feels like this Darius Acuff, Keaton Wagler buzz that the Bulls could potentially take either of those two over a Cam Boozer at pick number 4. It feels a little manufactured just to get conversations around who the Bulls could pick if it's not one of those guys in the top 4. Now, in my opinion, I think it's good that the Bulls are having a almost boring pick here in the NBA draft. Like, the Bulls' situation right now is like, hey, whichever the top 4 falls to Chicago at 4, that's who the Bulls could take. So I completely agree with Cowley on this one. Like, there should not be an inch of the Bulls in their scouting department that is thinking that, like, Darius Acuff or Keaton Wagler, like, those guys are going to be, better prospects or better pros than Wilson or Boozer. Like, I think Wilson and Boozer, they'll both be multi-time All-Stars. I think they could be all-NBA guys. And listen, Acuff or Wagler, they could be that. But it's easier to build a team around elite wings compared to elite guards. Like, now, I say all that to say this. Some of the elite teams in the NBA do have elite guards. But if you take the New York Knicks, for example, Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson's fantastic. But the Knicks, they orchestrated a roster around Brunson that is perfectly constructed to his strengths and weaknesses. Like, you got 2 big wings on the perimeter in Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. Like, they can both spread the floor out, both 3-point shooters, and you have Karl Anthony Towns, his playmaking center, who can also space the floor for Brunson and his ability to get to the rim. But then you also have that grit and grind guy in Josh Hart next to him, where he's going to do all the dirty work that Brunson doesn't necessarily do because of what he's asked to do offensively. So I guess the Knicks, they're led by a guard, but they have almost not missed on the pieces they have around him. Now, Anthony Edwards, he's not a smaller guard like a Darius Acuff or a Keaton Wagler. You see this photo, dude's absolutely cut up. He's a freak athlete, but they've done a great job of building that roster around him. Like getting an Ayo Dosunmu, Dante DiVincenzo at the 2-guard spot, or then having Jaden McDaniels, very similar to OG Anunoby, one of the best 3-and-D wings in the NBA. Then you got Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert as the front court physical guys who can defend the rim at a high level. And then SGA with the Thunder, talk about a perfectly constructed team around a guard. You got Jalen Williams, a good 2-way wing. You got Chet Holmgren, an ideal big man in 2026 and spread the floor, but also protect the rim at a very, very high level. So all of these teams, yes, they have built elite teams around elite guards, but you have to nail all of the pieces around them. If you have one bad contract, let's just say the Knicks, let's just say OG Anunoby didn't turn out to be OG Anunoby, ended up being just a low-level 3-and-D guy. The Knicks would not be where they are at right now, but because OG has, taken that huge step, he legit looks like he could be a second-best player on a championship team. They've just done a great job. So it's an interesting conversation, but I just think the Bulls should lean towards a wing over a guard. We'll discuss this a little more coming up, but I do want to give a massive shout-out to our good friends at Prize Picks. And if you guys plug in promo code HMA, we'll hook you guys up with $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching sports. The app is really easy to use. All you have to do is pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. Prize Picks is available in most states, including California, Texas, Florida, Minnesota, New York, and, of course, Illinois. And they make watching my favorite sporting events that much more enjoyable. as a follow my lineup throughout the entire game, but they also have season-long projections on Prize Picks. And that's what we're doing for this lineup today. Jackson Dart going to take us more on passing touchdowns. Dak Prescott's going to take us less on passing yards, and Jalen Hurts going to take us less on rushing touchdowns this season. But $20 lineup wins you guys 120, so fade those picks or tail those picks. Just do so at Prize Picks, and you guys can follow me on the app at Pat Sieps, PATSIEPS, to see all my lineups there. But sign up for Prize Picks with code HMA. Get $50 in lineups instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. We'll have that clickable link for you guys in the comments section and description of today's show. But a massive shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show. Kind of getting back to this point about if you do have a lead guard as your best player, you need to build a perfect team around him. And like Steph Curry is like the exception here. Like Steph Curry is a top 10 player of all time. Like if you're telling me Acuff is going to be a top 10 player of all time, like of course I'm going to change my thoughts on drafting him at number 4. Like he would be the number 1 overall pick if you could guarantee that. But like even still, the Warriors, like they got a very good team around Steph. Like Klay Thompson is like the ideal 2 guard next to a smaller guard. I was actually talking to our Knicks host, Marshall Green, and we were just talking about like, you know, who really is like the ideal 2 guard next to a guy like Jalen Brunson. I was saying it's like prime Klay Thompson, like a guy who can spread the floor. Like you can't give him an inch of space, so the floor is spread offensively. But then he was also back in his prime. Klay Thompson, 6'7", long wingspan, can guard at a very high level. So it's like, you know, Steph, as great as he is, he still had a great piece in Klay and also a great piece in Draymond Green. Like you talk about a guy offensively, dribble handoffs, you know, setting screens, getting Steph in motion, getting him easier looks, because it is hard for a small guard to get easy shots in the NBA. So I think it is an interesting conversation, but also it shouldn't be a conversation. Like you should just take whoever falls to you at pick number 4, close your eyes, and hopefully that they end up being a good pro here in the NBA. But you guys let me know, would you draft Acuff or Wagler at pick number 4? Give me a D for draft, give me a P for pass. You guys chime in down below. I think this is a non-story for the Chicago Bulls. Agree with what Joe Cowley was saying. So you guys let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section if you would take either of these 2 over Wilson or Cam Boozer. So as Mavs Nation on Twitter, they were talking about Josh Giddey. They heard the trade rumors around the Chicago Bulls, and they tweeted this out saying the Dallas Mavericks could be a strong fit for Josh Giddey if the Chicago Bulls move on. Giddey's playmaking would complement Kyrie Irving's scoring while fitting perfectly alongside Cooper Flagg. At 23, he matches Dallas's long-term timeline in the West, which, you know, he does. Like, if you are a team that wants to acquire Josh Giddey, you're probably ideally saying, like, hey, next year we're going to be a playoff team. Year after, we're contending for championships. Because Josh Giddey's contract, like, I don't think it's easy to build a championship contending team around this contract unless your best player is on a rookie deal. Like if it was the San Antonio Spurs and they had Josh Giddey, but it's like, oh, Wemby, you know, he's on a cheap rookie deal. He's making nothing. Like same thing could be said about the Mavs. Like you have Cooper Flagg on a very, very cheap deal. So it's like you can like overpay a little bit for a lead guard. And also Giddey next to Kyrie offensively would be honestly great to watch. Defensively would have the issues, but like on the back line of the Mavs defense, you still have, you know, Flagg's a great defender, you know, Gafford, Derek Lively, PJ Washington, you still have good defenders. So it would be an interesting team if he does go to Dallas. Now, I don't think Giddey personally can be a long-term option for the Bulls. I just can never see him as a starting point guard being a confetti guy. We could see him hoisting the Lombardi Trophy, the Larry O'Brien. But I do think he has value for the Bulls next season. Even though I think the Bulls should try to trade Josh Giddey, I'm not trading him for a bad offer. Like, I'm only giving up Giddey if you get a good enough offer, because I do think next season, with the amount of young talent the Bulls have, you can make an argument having a playmaking guard could help get these guys open shots, help their development. But there's a trade out there. Man, this matches salaries. This could go through. And I would do it if I were the Chicago Bulls. So you'd be getting Klay Thompson and Caleb Martin. Klay Thompson could easily be a buyout guy. You buy out Klay Thompson, whatever, he's just a throw-in to help match these salaries. Then Caleb Martin, not a bad 3-and-D player to come off the bench, good defender, but then you also get pick 30 in this year's draft class. It's a loaded draft class. If this is the deal, again, it's the worst first-round pick possible. I would consider it if I were the Bulls. And then if that goes down, is what they should do. I think you honestly wait for your center. You obviously do what you're supposed to do at pick number 4, get Boozer, Wilson. Then you draft Cameron Carr at pick 15, an explosive guard, love his potential, and then get Henry Vessar at pick 30. 7'2", really good movement, little light in the hips, but I mean the guy averaged 17 points a game next season. So let's just say the Bulls do this and they do trade Josh Giddey. And maybe if you aren't the fan or aren't a fan of getting pick 30 here, well, what if the Bulls roster looks like this? What if next year this is the Bulls starting lineup where you're rolling in with Trey Jones, Cameron Carr, Buzelis, Vesar, and Boozer? I mean, you got 3 rookies starting, so that's going to be exciting. But you got a veteran guard in Trey Jones, get these guys open looks. And then off the bench, like, you got a bunch of young guns still. Patrick Williams, Okoro, Dillingham, Noah Senge, Leonard Miller. Then you also got a good backup big in Jalen Smith. But, like, what you're seeing on screen right now, I would absolutely love that. Like, trade Josh Giddey, get pick 30, draft Vesar, get Cameron Carr, Cam Boozer. Like, that's an elite core to build around. And, like, next season for the Bulls, like, it's maybe a loser mentality, whatever you want to say. It's not about winning basketball games. Next season for the Chicago Bulls is about setting the culture and player development. So get a bunch of young guys in there. Get these guys an opportunity where, like, their usage rates are high. Their shots per game are high. Because, yes, you can develop in the offseason. But I think most of the development in the NBA comes in playing actual NBA games in real big-time minutes. And I would love that team we just showed, they make the play-in tournament. Like, that would be an incredible accomplishment for that team. You have 3 rookies starting. You got Buzelis in year 3, Trey Jones, a veteran guard, and a bunch of young guys coming off the bench. Like, that's how I would do it if I were the Bulls. Then you have that core of Buzelis, Cameron Carr, Boozer, and Vesar. Then you just need to go get that lead point guard of the future, which you could do next draft, or you could do in free agency or the trade market down the line. But if you guys made it to the end of today's show, appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. Enjoy Cubs White Sox this weekend. That's going to be a lot of fun in the city. So appreciate all of you guys for watching. And if you guys made it to the end, hit me with a C-Red down below. And we'll get on out of here. As always, go Bulls.